Yo, what's up, man? Been a little while since we talked like this. Mostly just been sitting behind my iPad with my mic, sharing what I'm sharing. Speaking of, that was yesterday's episode. Creating boundaries. Creating boundaries from a place of sharing. Coming from a place of sharing is, rooted in charity, and it's also something that you can control. So, what's new? Well, it's freaking crazy hot here in Corpus. It's 2 o'clock in the afternoon as I'm making this video. 2 to 4 is like the hottest part of the day. It's already mid 90s. Heat index is probably over 100. So I'm heading to the gym right now. I just finished probably one of the most productive days I've had in a really long time. Emails written, Instagram stuff put together. By the way, if you are on Instagram and you are not following me on Instagram, I recommend check it out. I've got some pretty cool stuff I've been putting on there. I've definitely been really consistent on Instagram with some content. I got some really cool training stuff and whatnot coming up for that part of the channel. So definitely check that out. It's at Strong as Heck. So if you got a moment and you're on Instagram and you want to see what I'm up to there, feel free to check that out. Instagram handle should be on the bottom left corner of the screen here. So let's see if I can manage this camera from sliding around. Anywho, heading to the gym, and I'm going to be working on my deadlift. And today's episode is going to be a little bit different. I'm going to talk about what I'm doing, kind of like taking you through like my mental process of what I'm doing, when I'm doing it, what I'm focusing on as I'm training, lifting, that kind of thing. And maybe it'll help you out if you're working on. Today I'm not on a program right now. I'm just really practicing. So I'm going to be working on my deadlift. That's always just a staple of my training, deadlift. Going to be working on probably my push-up. Going to work on some double kettlebell stuff. Again, everything's going to be more practice focused. I've been really big on dead stop stuff. So, one swing at a time. I've been doing one clean at a time, one clean and press at a time. I like that because it allows me to focus on practice, skill mastery, versus just rushing through and trying to do a workout. So again, I'm not in the middle of a workout right now. I'm not in the middle of like a program, so I'm using this time to just work on skills. And I'm not even on a deadlift cycle right now either. I'm just working on technique, building volume at about 65-ish% of my max. And again, just practicing. So I'll just be giving you some like behind the scenes things that I'm thinking, what I'm focusing on. This is how I personally train when I'm not in the middle of a training cycle, is skill practice. And like I said, I might work on the push-up. I might not work on the push-up. And the reason why I say that is because I think I've got some shoulder impingement on my left shoulder. Woke up one day and it just kind of started bothering me. I haven't even been doing, I don't know if it's the dips, I don't know what it is. What I think it is I have call it a bad habit, for lack of better words. I sleep with my arm over my head, like I kind of sleep like this, off to my side. And I think just over the years, because this is the side, and I always sleep on that side. This is the side that's always been kind of bothering me. This is the side that's got my crazy elbow injuries from jiu-jitsu. I think this is the side with my wrist that's not as mobile, flexible. And I think it might be stemming from the way I lay on my shoulder. So if you ever have elbow problems, if you ever have elbow issues, elbow stiffness, like I have got some severe elbow stiffness, if you ever have that, the issue more than likely is not the elbow. The issue is likely happening above or below the elbow. Okay, so more than likely you've got some stiffness, you as in I, stiffness in my wrist or stiffness in my shoulder. And as a consequence, the elbow's kind of caught in the middle, and so he takes the beating, right? Same thing happens with your lower body, right? So if you think about it, your shoulder is your hip of the upper body. Your elbow is your knee of the upper body, right? It's just a hinge joint. And then you have your ankle and your wrist. So very similar body parts. And so just like your knee, if you've got ankle stiffness, if you had an ankle injury, if you've got hip stiffness because you sit all day long, it will affect your knee. Specifically, if you've got a foot or an ankle issue. If your arches collapse, that puts a lot of strain on the medial side of your knee. Then it works its way up the chain. You start putting strain in the hip, and it works its way all the way up. There's a saying, I don't know if it's a proverb or a Chinese proverb, you hear these things, I don't know. There's a saying that we die from our feet. We die from our feet. The more deconditioned our feet become, the weaker our body becomes. So, just got here to the gym. I know I'm gonna be working on the deadlift, obviously. Gonna be working on the deadlift. Gonna be working on my chin up. I'll probably be working on some double kettlebell start-stop stuff. I really have been enjoying that for the longest time, I think since 2020. I've only been doing exclusively, like when it comes to kettlebell work, I've exclusively just using single kettlebell because it's very minimalist. It is high accessibility, which is part of our strength engine of the Always Be Ready protocol. And so these last few days, maybe this last week, I've been doing more double work, but I've only been working on swing, clean, and some press from time to time. Most of my pressing has been coming from the dip and push-up variations. So go ahead and head inside and get started. All right, well, is freaking crazy hot in the gym today. It's like in the mid-90s here inside. Literally it felt like a sauna when I walked in. And the moment that I opened up the big doors, opened up some of the small doors, it felt like the AC turned on. So we got some good fresh air coming through. So I'm gonna start with the deadlift. I like to follow more of a specific warm-up. I'm not against warm-ups, but I've never spent too much time warming up. You may need a more comprehensive warm-up. I like to just get right down to business. So, and the reason I do that, the reason why I follow that strategy is because for the most part, outside of strength training, I do a pretty good job of maintaining my mobility, flexibility, whatnot. I have a strict movement protocol that I like to go through. We take all of our students through this. We have a specific upper body movement flow sequence. We've got a specific lower body flow movement sequence. We've got a total body strength and power sequence. We've got several different movement sequences that we go through. We take our students through. And I do that a lot on in between. So I get a lot of that done there. So when it comes to my strength training, I don't, I'm not going to say waste time, but I will say waste time. I don't waste a lot of time warming up. I don't do a general warm-up. So general warm-up is a series of movements or movement prep, whatever people call it, not related to the training that you're going to do, right? So if I'm doing deadlifts and I would warm up with goblet squat, halos, get up, something like that, general warm-up. Specific warm-up is specific to the training that you're going to do. So if you're going to be working on deadlift, I do some light deadlifts, and I'll take you through what I'm going to do. If I'm going to do pressing, I do pressing, right? And so, or I'll do a lighter set of what I'm going to be doing. So let's say, for instance, I was going to work on, let's just say kettlebell complexes or kettlebell snatches. I would get a lighter bell. If I'm going to be snatching with a 24, I'd get a 16 or a 20, and if I'm doing, let's just say, sets of 10, I would do a few sets of 10 with that and just get things moving and then get right down to business. And so that's what I'm going to be doing today. So I'll be using the good old Deadlift Bar. I have several different bars that I like to use. This is my stiff bar. I've had this one I got this in 2013, so that's what's 9 years, and I like it because the knurling it's still there, but it's been worn down a little bit, and I like this because I'll train this, I can train it without socks and even with socks, but I can really focus on keeping that bar on my legs so it's not going to tear my skin apart. And it's a stiff bar, so I'll practice some of my skills on this from time to time because it's my way of increasing the intensity without adding more weight. So I use a stiff bar. And this is my Rogue deadlift bar. It's one of my favorite deadlift bars there. But I have to say, my absolute favorite is the Cap Texas deadlift bar. And that's what this one is. This one was all chrome. It's starting to rust out just a little bit. It's because I don't know if it's the bar or because it's always hot and humid in Corpus. And I try to do a really good job. I'm not perfect at it, but I try to do a really good job of. That's why I use a WD-40 on my bars, because I don't like to leave chalk on the bars. I don't like to leave chalk on my bells because chalk absorbs moisture, right? That's why you use chalk. It absorbs moisture. So in a humid place like Corpus, it's going to pull all that moisture in. I don't like that. That's what makes your equipment rust. So I pride myself in taking good care of my equipment because I want it to last me forever. And I mean, I have bells here that I've had for over a decade, and they're perfect. You know, they're not perfect, but they're not all messed up. Yeah, there's some rust on them, but for the most part, they're in really good condition. And I try to have the same pride in my bars because you want those to last, right? That's why you invested in them. Okay, so I'm gonna do something cool today. So I've never used these yet. So I bought these Rogue steel plates. They're the same Rogue steel plates that they use at the Arnold Classic for the Strongman, but it doesn't have the cool Arnold engraving in it. But they're the Rogue deep dish plates. I really love these plates because I can drop them. So back then, when they would lift with these deep dish plates, they didn't have bumper plates back then. So to keep from destroying the floor, they had these thicker, like almost 2-inch plates, so you can drop the bar. So we're always dropping the barbell, and so I really like these plates. But mostly what I have are all the 45s, but I bought hundreds. And I've yet to use the 100-pound plates. And I'm going to use the 100-pound plates today. So I'm going to give you a close-up look of the 100-pound plates. So you have it. Those are the 100s. Man, isn't that beautiful? Look at that. Isn't that just absolutely stunning? And these are 100-pound plates, but they're thinner than a pair of 45s. They're thinner than a pair of 45s, and so you actually get to have more weight on the bar. So those are the 100s that are going to be going on the barbell today. So this would be, so we got a 100-pound plate. So my initial warm-up is going to be heavier, obviously, than normally I start with 45 on each side. And prior to these plates, I like to use kilo plates because kilos are just, it's a lot easier. I always say this joke, all weight is measured and lifted in kilos, so I don't like the pounded plates. For years, I've always used kilo plates up until I got these steel plates, and then eventually I got these. It's just easier to count, 100 kilos, 200 kilos, 250, 270, 280, 290. It's easier to count for me, right? So I normally start with 45 on each side, and I'll do sets of 3, maybe sets of 5, until I start working to my training weights for the day. But today's gonna be a little bit different because normally I start out at 45 on each side. It's like 135, right? But today we're gonna be starting with 245, right? 244, because this is a 20 kilo bar, not a 45-pound bar. But this is, you get to share with me my first time using the 100s. I have never used the 100s before. Now I do have, I've got these Rogue 50 kilo plates, because again, I used to lift everything in kilos. I've got these Rogue 50 kilo plates. These are really thin. These are the competition powerlifting style. I got these Rogue 50 kilos, that's 110 pounds. But these are the 100s. 100 deep dish. So you and I together get to lift with 100s today. They actually have dust on them. I've never used these. I bought these when I started the 30 days of deadlifting. I was actually in the middle of the 30 days of deadlifting little experiment. I ended up going 84 days, which is kind of what these videos have been all about. So 84 days. And I got them around day 7 or day 8, I believe, into the deadlift daily. So technically it was day 37 because I did all 30 days, and then I just kind of continued. So out of all 84 days, I got these like around 37 days in. So let's test them out. Okay, so normally what I'll do is, I've been working on my hook grip because I noticed that whenever I would start double overhand, I always got in a much better position. I don't know why, and I had a few other people on my channel say, yeah, I've noticed that too. Whenever I deadlift double overhand, I get in a better position. So I'm trying to learn the hook grip. It's very painful, but I'm learning, which is why I've been using the little cheater straps so I can get my volume in, because my best pull is 485, so with 220 kilos, single. I can only do singles. I can't do volume with it yet because I got baby wussy thumbs. All right. So for me, we've been taking our students through some deadlift training, and it's taken me years to get my stance down. You may see like, man, Hector, you got this crazy wide stance, and a lot of people look at sumo as cheating. I guess you could look at it that way. The ultimate goal is to move the barbell the least distance possible. But think about it whenever you're, man, I feel good. When your legs are this wide, you're at a disadvantage. When your legs are this wide, you're at a disadvantage. Because you lose power. I mean, it's like, imagine trying to do a broad jump like this. You lose power. You have more power when your feet are underneath your hips. And so, sure, you're moving the bar less, but you actually are losing power because your legs aren't as wide. So I would argue if you can pull a really heavy weight at a disadvantage, it's pretty gangster. So for me, everybody's stance will vary. I feel powerful when my legs are out this wide. I've played with several different stances, but it ultimately depends on the length of your femurs. You got short femurs, you're going to have a closer stance. You got longer femurs, you can have a wider stance. The goal is to maintain knee, ankle, mid-foot alignment. Keep those shins as vertical as possible. That's really what you're looking for. So let's do another rep. So one of the things I'm focusing on when I set up is, obviously you hear me talk a lot about the wedge, and in our coaching here at the gym and in our online coaching, our next level deadlift program, which is going to be coming out pretty soon. If you want to grab a copy of that, grab access to that. It's literally how to take your deadlift to the next level. We've had people that have gone through that have never deadlifted ever, or people that have deadlifted, and once they go through that, they're like, wow, I can't believe I've been doing everything wrong the whole time. And these are pretty experienced lifters. So we talk about the 5. Everybody knows what the wedge is. I've talked about it a lot on this channel. And so it's ultimately getting the most leverage over the bar so you can lift it. So you want to try to get your hips as close to the bar as possible. But as I started breaking it down, started analyzing the wedge, I discovered that there are 5 aspects to the wedge. And I'll break some of those down. I'm going to grab some chalk real quick. My hands are getting slippery, sweaty. It's crazy hot. So there are some aspects, 5 other aspects, or 4 other, because you got the first one. There are 4 others, 5 total, that I discovered part of the wedge. And the more that I discovered, as I discovered these, just so many light bulb moments happened. And it's what's allowed me over time to really get really good at deadlifting the barbell. As I've practiced these, you saw in previous episode, I've been able to break the bar off the floor with the wedge at, I think, 505 or 495 was my best. I got the bar to lift off the floor, just wedge. And that's why I'm practicing all 5 aspects of it. So I'll break them down here as I go through my warm-up. So the first one, we all know it's from the bottom up, right? And these won't always, the way I'm going to show them, they're not the way that you'll apply them, but it's how we layer the training. It's how we tech stacking. It's how we layer these skill sequencing, right? I did an episode on this, and one of the deadlift dailies is skill sequencing, right? So I'll do the first one, right, where I'll set up, and then I wedge from the bottom, get the bar to break when it's light enough. Okay. And then from there, as we're coaching our students, as we're taking you through the next level deadlift course, we begin to layer these. So next deadlift, we're going to focus on the next part of the wedge, and that's at the knees. So which is a big sticking point for a lot of people, is once they get to the knees, one of the biggest challenges or mistakes or where they get stuck is trying to pull the bar, trying to pull their torso over their hips, right? So they're trying to pull their torso over the hips. And what happens when you do that is you ultimately end up pulling the bar further than you need to. Plus it can probably jack you up, right? So here's what that would look like, right? So if I'm pulling and I get to my knees, and let's say I start to struggle, right? Once I get here, people tend to pull their torso over the top of their hips. And all that does is makes you pull the weight further. Instead, focus on wedging your hips straight forward. So like you're going to try to wedge your hips between the floor and the bar, right around the hip level. You're trying to do that again. And you do that, you wedge that way by just driving your hips forward. So you're not actually lifting the bar. Once the bar gets to around the knee level, you're pretty much at lockout, which is why you've heard Pavel and a lot of the leadership in the Strong First community say, you can improve your deadlift with the kettlebell swing, because the kettlebell swing teaches you to squeeze your glutes, right? And for most people, it's right here at this lockout that they have a hard time. Conventional sumo, doesn't matter. And so what they try to do is they try to pull their torso up over the top of their hips. Instead, just drive the hips forward. Look like this. So, hit the first wedge. Once they get to the knees, it's just this. That little movement right there. Boom. Okay? That's it. Once you get about the knees, it's just this. Boom. And what happens is, you're going to lock out, obviously, but you finish in the hollow position. You finish in the hollow. So you'll see. I'll do it again. When I get to my knees, boom. Knee level, boom. Right? That's the second layer of the wedge. We get some more chalk. So I'll do a rep just like I did. Once I break the ground, from there, as soon as the bar gets to my knees, I'm focused on just driving my hips forward. So you'll hear me cue our students, as soon as the bar gets to the knees, you hear me say hips, because as soon as you get to the knees, you need that cue to drive those hips forward. And so, and so the next one, again, I'm just kind of running through it all, but there's a lot more details into these. The next thing that I'll do, I don't do this all the time when I'm training, but when I'm trying to master the skill set of the wedge, it's wedging from the top down. Not a lot of people know about that. You can even think of this as an active negative. I call it the reverse wedge, because more than likely, when you're deadlifting a barbell, each sequential rep after the first one is going to be better, because when you're coming down and resetting, you're locking in better. Okay, so I was like, okay, well, what if we just intentionally reverse that position, found the start, because at the bottom, when you do the reverse wedge, when you get to the bottom, you'll be in the start position, and then pull again. Okay, so look like this. And then under control, straight down the legs, don't let the tension out of the bar. You'll be in the exact position that you need to be in, and then you'd pull again. Okay? That's the reverse wedge. Next repetition, I'm going to focus on getting my arms longer. So I call this a triceps wedge. Again, you're not always going to apply these in this order. It's just how we layer the skill set. Because actually the tricep wedge would be paired together with the setup. Okay? But essentially what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to get my arms longer. Alright? And here's how I would do that, right, when I'm practicing this. So I get in my setup, right? Make sure I'm connected. I get into my setup, and then I bring my arms straight down, and I hinge just enough to where my fingertips touch the bar. And then what I do from there is I just get my arms longer. So without coming down for the bar, I just try to get my arms longer. See? So instead of coming down, I'm trying to stay as high up as I can. Shorten the distance. So, just try to get the arms longer. And then I lock in and then pull. Okay? And then the last one is my favorite one. This last one I stumbled on by accident. I call it the knee wedge with your knees. So what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to, because you want to imagine that there's a wall here. There's a wall in front of the plates. There's a wall behind the plates. You're trying to wedge yourself between those walls. And so, put everything together. I'm trying to get my knees, this knee closer to that plate, and then this knee closer to that plate. So I'm spreading my knees open a little bit. And what that does is it gets my hips closer to the bar. Okay? And when I do that, man, that was how I got the weights at 465 and up towards over 500 to break the ground before even pulling. Why is that even important? Because if you can get the weights to break before you actually pull, you have you've done two things. One, you virtually removed that much weight off the ground. So if you can break, this is 245. If I can break the ground with this weight, I have virtually removed 245 pounds off the bar. The second thing that it does is it shortens the distance that you gotta pull the weight. Win-win, right? And so the moment that I did that with my knees one day, I was like, oh shoot, literally the weight, it felt like, I think I had 4 something on the bar. It felt like there was nothing on there. And then from there it was just a straight shot. Okay? So, put it all together here. So, come down, wedge from the bottom, arms long, everything, all right? Knee wedge, wedge from, knee wedge before I go, because the wedging from the bottom, long arm, so the triceps wedge, and the knee wedge, those are all going to be in the beginning. But again, remember I said, you're not going to execute these the way I'm showing you, because we're just layering. Then once I get to the knees, hips driving from the knees, and then the reverse wedge, and then you'd rinse and repeat for however many repetitions that you'd be doing. All right? Okay. So what I'm actually going to do is switch to the cheater straps. My grip is getting toasted. It's really weird how, since this elbow thing, shoulder thing, my grip's gotten weaker, which makes sense. You know, might even be something going on in the neck. Yours is jiu-jitsu. Your neck is the fuse box for everything else. So, I'm going to switch to the cheater straps. One thing I failed to show you was the actual knee wedge position of what I'm trying to accomplish, okay? So once I'm set up, okay, I'm trying to create space in my hip socket. And I do that by driving my knee as close to that plate as I can, So what that does, it does two things. One of the most important things is it gets my hips closer to the bar, giving me more leverage. Second thing that it does is it really lights up the external rotators of the hip, really gets the glutes fired on almost on all cylinders. I really feel it like glute medius area, and it really builds that outer part of the hip. So it does those two things. So here is what it looks like once we get the knees moving. Okay, so once I'm all locked in, I take my knees, I just try to create space in my hip. See that? That little movement. Like I used to pull from this position. And when I stumbled across this, it was literally almost like by accident because I'm always playing with my setup. When I stumbled across it, man, it felt like there was nothing on the bar. Okay, so here it's right before you pull, boom. And that locks my hips in and gets me almost right over the bar. And it allows me to get more upright with my posture, giving me more leverage. So let's knock out a few reps. Arms long. Straight shot. Arms long. Knees out. And then right at the knees, lock out. Again. And you see how that weight's already breaking, right? Like night and day, like weights move, almost like there's nothing on the bar. And then from there, it is all gravy. Okay, so feeling pretty good. Gonna throw 45 on each side, keep going. Now, one thing, to be honest with you guys, of what's going on with me and training is, for the last almost 2 weeks now, I've been having some back spasms, kind of off to the side here. I haven't had one in a really long time. I used to get them almost every week at the end of the week. I think it's because of how much stress I was putting on myself. All the training, all the work. This is when I was competing in jiu-jitsu a lot, traveling, doing things like that, running the business, strength training. And I would get these gnarly back spasms that I couldn't even brush my teeth. I had to hold myself up and brush. I couldn't stabilize my torso. And it would take a day or two before it completely went away. And I haven't had that in a really long time. And it just it hit me last week out of nowhere. So I'm probably not gonna go very heavy today. I'm just going to work on my skills and just share with you what I'm doing. So, yeah. But I, like you, come across little hiccups, little bumps in the road, and you just got to do the best that you can, I have jiu-jitsu tonight. Another reason why I'm going to keep the load pretty light. Days where I have jiu-jitsu and strength training, I try not to go crazy on the weight, because for me, jiu-jitsu is always a priority. And so the reason why I'm doing all this stuff, health, things like that, but it's to benefit me on the mat. So this is, what is this? This would be 135 plus 200, 335, right? 335, which is about 150-ish, 152 kilos. So, my exact same setup. So now I share with you the layer, right, of the 5 parts of the wedge that I'm hitting on the layer. But now I'm going to try to pull them all together at the same time. So you're going to see wedge from the bottom, long arms, at the knees. Wedge from the bottom, long arms, knees go out, hips get closer, posture is as upright as I can get it. From there should be a straight shot. Once they get to the knees, hips forward right away, finishing in the hollow, controlled descent. I'm not gonna do the controlled descent reverse wedge because I've got my wedge pretty dialed in, but if you're practicing that, highly recommend the controlled descent. So that way you can come down, establish the start position, and then pull again. So I'm gonna keep my volume to triples today. And we're already about 50 minutes in. Usually what I do, I mean, it's taking me a lot longer because I'm talking. Usually on days like this, I'll just set a timer for about 45 minutes and I just practice and then I call it a day. So today's Thursday, today's my technical day. So normally I train 3 days in a row, technical day on Thursday, train 3 days in a row. So I train every single day. It's just part of my life. Strength training, kettlebells, jiu-jitsu. Now the barbell has really, I like to say, given me my power back, confidence, things like that. You know, growing up as a kid, I wasn't a very confident kid. So something's important, you do it every day, right? At least that's what you hear people say, and I agree with that. So true. Let's see how I do with this. You can see how the weight's already popping, right? The moment I'm, boom, driving the hips in, weight's already floating. So I'm gonna wipe off. Crazy sweat. So it's mid-90s here in the gym. My little face towel, and I've got 2 scoops of protein in here. I like to sip on this during my training. It's just chocolate peanut butter. So I think I'm just going to focus on the deadlift today. Give my shoulders and everything a rest. Something else I want to mention, I see this. I was not aware of this until Pavel made me aware of this. And this is a big deal in terms of, like you have those unspoken rules, right? In etiquette, right? I see this all the time. Videos, interwebs. I made this mistake for years because I just didn't know any better. You never, ever, ever step over the barbell. If you see previous videos with me doing that, it's because I didn't know better. You now know better. Never step over the barbell. It's a disrespectful thing to do. Pavel once told me, if they ever see you stepping over a barbell in Russia, they'll throw you out of the gym. And maybe he wasn't directing that to me exactly, but it was me in a smaller room of people that were deadlifting, and he saw someone do that and called us all out on it, really. And so, never do this. Why? The barbell's your training partner. This is your training partner. So if this were a human, if this were you and you're laying here, like how disrespectful would it be for me to stand over the top of you? When you stand over the top of someone, you're showing dominance over that. And I'm not trying to dominate the barbell as my training partner. I'm training with it, right? So it's really a mindset thing. It's an etiquette thing. Don't ever step over the barbell, which is why you'll see me, like, if I'm here, I'll just reach over and rack here, or just completely walk all the way around, but never stand over the top of the barbell. It's not a good thing, all right? Plus, the last thing you need is not paying attention and you trip, and I fall right into that deadlift jack's not gonna be very good, right? So, let's do this again, shall we? Hey man, I started having these, today's, as I'm making this video, Thursday, started having these gnarly back spasms. And sometimes I'd stand up, I could barely stand up straight. It would take me 5 or 10 seconds to get upright. And it feels like this gnarly muscle cramp. And then if I'm sitting for a period of time and I stand up, it sucks trying to stand up straight. But once I'm moving and walking around, it's gone. The good thing is it doesn't lock me up when I bend over. Like when I'll know I'm having bad back spasm when I kind of lean over to pick something up, and it almost kind of takes your wind away, takes your air away. But I'm not feeling that, so which is why I'm continuing to practice a little bit. But we'll see how we do, deadlift by deadlift. One next thing I'm going to focus on here on this set is, as I set up, as I go through everything, the intention of the leg drive. I think a lot of people get this wrong when they're learning the two stances, and that is they'll try to apply the force production or the trajectory of their force. They'll apply it to the wrong stance. So we all know, right, in respect to the conventional, is it's like a leg press, right? You're coming down and you're driving the floor away. That is for the conventional. You don't want to apply that same tactic with sumo, because your legs are wide, so you're in a disadvantageous position, and you're not going to have as much power. So what you want to try to do is you're trying to spread the floor apart. So these puzzle mats, these squared things here, if I were strong enough, I'm trying to drive out as if trying to split these things apart. That's the intention. And I think what allowed me to really get the weights to move, everything just kind of came together when I discovered this, like, knees opening and wedging from the knees, because now my feet have to go out that way. And I think that was the big difference maker there as I'm going through this and I'm on this journey of the deadlift. So anyway, enough talking. Let's lift some damn weight, shall we? Arms long, breath. That first one, the weights are still light for me. You can see how I kind of lost my balance on that first one. The moment I drive everything in, weights are popping, and I almost already started falling backwards. So once the weight gets heavy enough, you're not going to have to worry about falling backwards, because the barbell will counterbalance you. And as it's heavy enough, it'll counterbalance you, you're not going to fall backwards. Next thing I focus on, and again, I've been deadlifting the barbell now. I'm still a baby. I've been deadlifting a barbell now for 9 years. Started in 2013. I've gotten to where I can apply all these in one shot, but a lot of the times I'm just like practicing them one thing at a time, each set, and just layering it. So what I'm going to focus on this next pull is the trajectory of how I'm pulling. So don't think of, like I said, the conventional is driving down, right? I don't like to think of that when I'm doing sumo. Legs go out, like I'm trying to push two walls away from me. And I'm pulling back in like a 45-degree angle. So if you're watching me from the side, I'm not focusing on this. I'm focusing on, I'm just going to stagger my stance here so you can see what I'm trying to do. I'm actually trying to pull back this way, which is why you saw that first rep. If I were to let the barbell go, I'd fall back that way, because I'm driving these open, and then as I wedge and I lock everything in, I'm already thinking like I'm trying to peel and pull the bar off the ground. So this is where it becomes a pull. I would consider the conventional more of a lower body push, because you're really just like pushing. But a sumo is, in my opinion, a true pull, because you're trying to pull it back this way towards the wall. And that's why that first rep that I did on the previous set was, I lost my balance a little bit, because I was already, again, I've gotten to a point to where I can lock a lot of this stuff in all in one movement, which is where you want to get to, which is why we say strength is a skill, and that skill should be practiced, right? Which is what I'm doing today and what I'm sharing with you. So trying to pull back towards the wall is what I'm trying to do. And so that's going to be my main intention and my main focus for this next set. Smooth like butter. So what I encourage you to do, if you're learning the deadlift, if you've been following along with this deadlift daily cycle, is practice this stuff. It's the only way you get better at it. Think about it from the perspective of other martial arts. I mean, not other martial arts. Well, yeah, martial arts, but also sports. Look at the NFL. They're not playing a game every single day. They play once a week, and they go all out. The other 6 days, they're practicing footwork, studying film, catching over and over. So the only way you get better. Jiu-jitsu, if you look at that as a practice, specifically jiu-jitsu, combat arts, even, again, especially any compact discipline, you can't go all out every time. You're just going to wreck yourself. Which is why I wanted to experiment what would happen if I deadlifted a barbell every day. And it turned out okay for me. But quite honestly, I don't think that's something that I could maintain forever. I can deadlift forever. Deadlift every day forever? Maybe. I'd have to be using really light loads, but not the way that I did my deadlift cycle. I made it 84 days. First 30 days, added 50 pounds to a training max. Next 32 days, added another 40 pounds, so 90 pounds total in 62-ish days. Wasn't an all-time PR, but considering that I hadn't done much with the deadlift, it was quite an increase, you know? So I think I'm gonna do 2 more sets, and then we'll call it a day, because I'm hungry, I haven't eaten, I've been fasting so far. I'm already, how many hours in? 17 hours into a fast. So I'm gonna be downing a whole pound of ground beef, some cheese, a little bit of shredded cheese, some rice. That's gonna be my main meal. So I like to have a big meal after my training. I got my protein shake, I'll be done before I get home. And then I got jiu-jitsu. Tonight's no-gi. Give you a little insight of that. Today's no-gi. And then I have a little protein bar snack, and I'm done. I'm gonna do 2 more sets. This weight feels really good. 335, this is a really good practice weight for me right now. Really trying to get those weights to pop. You'll notice how when I come down, I pull myself down. For me personally, I play around with different setups, but for the most part, you'll almost see every time, I don't fold over, grab, and then set. I used to do it that way. I haven't found that to be, for one, the most repeatable, and I haven't found myself be able to really just own that position. And so I like to actively pull myself down. So I don't just like flop, I'm actually boom. Like in a way, I already set my knees. See what I'm saying? Like I already, boom, set my knees out. I'm right over the bar, I'm trying to get my hips as close as I can. Then I'll come down, and since I'm using the cheater straps, I gotta come down and loop them, right? I'll always call these the cheater straps because that's exactly what it is. But since I'm not trying to be a power lifter, screw it. Use the cheater straps while you journey through. All right, here we go. See, I'm getting a good float. It feels good. It just feels so good. Lifting the 100-pound plates today. First time, you and me. So I'm curious. Do me a favor and drop me a comment and let me know what you like about this episode. Completely different, right? Different how I've been running the episodes of late. I know they've been very spiritual, religious stuff, but I feel compelled to share that stuff with you. And several people are watching it, so it seems to be of some value. But today, definitely a change of speed, a little lighter. Let me know how you're liking this episode. Let me know if you'd like to see more episodes like this. Get an insight of my mind, my thoughts of what's happening, what I'm focusing on, what I'm doing, why am I doing these things. I think that's the most crucial thing, is to understand why you're doing it. If I had to restart this deadlift journey all over again, if I had to start jiu-jitsu all over again, if I had to start training with kettlebells all over again, this whole strength thing all over again, I would not focus on reps and sets. I'd not focus on technique and drilling. Here's what I'd focus on: concepts. The why behind the how. The how means nothing. When you understand the why, the how becomes easy, right? So when I figure out why, like why am I putting my feet here? Why am I doing what I'm doing? When you understand the concepts to something, anything, jiu-jitsu, strength training, life, money, anything, business, when you understand the concepts, you can now practice and drill the concept. You can practice the grip. You can practice the positioning. You can practice the wedge. Jiu-jitsu, you can practice transitions, right? And then you begin to drill those and practice those like we're doing today, over and over and over. And then what happens is, when it's time to train, the concepts and the drills manifest themselves on the mat. It manifests themselves here, because by setting up and being very meticulous and mastering these things over and over, you begin to do them automatic. And then the training and the results basically manifest themselves at that point. But you can't get to that point without understanding the concepts. And that's why I said, if I had to do this whole thing all over again, I would focus on understanding concepts. Forget kettlebell workouts. Forget anything, barbell workouts, forget all that stuff. It means nothing. Not until you've got the concepts down. Last set. That's good right there. Solid. That's it, man. I'm gonna unrack all this stuff. After that, we're gonna head out. Got some food, getting some food in. And then after that, we got jiu-jitsu. So, see you in a bit.